This is the Friday Rollup for October 20th through October 24th, 2025, powered by dailycyber.news. You can also listen on the go at dailycyber.news. CIS added a server-side request forgery in Oracle E-Business Suite to its known exploited vulnerabilities list, which means real attackers are abusing it right now. EBS powers finance, procurement, and HR, so a single exposed instance can put sensitive data and back-office operations in play. Federal agencies have a patch deadline, and private firms should move with the same urgency, especially where an EBS portal touches the internet. The twist is that many deployments sit behind older reverse proxies, where logging is thin and scanners miss details. Treat this like a live incident while patches roll. Tighten web application firewall rules, turn up logging on both the app and the proxy, and verify what's reachable from outside. If maintenance has to wait, restrict external access and review admin access patterns over the last month for anything that doesn't make sense. There's also a serious edge device issue that deserves immediate attention. A critical flaw in TP-Link OMADA gateways lets attackers run commands without logging in. And these boxes are common in small and mid-sized businesses, branches, and guest networks. Successful exploitation can change configurations, plant malware, or open a path deeper into your environment. The exposure spikes when management interfaces sit on the open internet or ship with defaults that never got tightened. EdgeGear is a high-leverage foothold because it sits between users and everything they need, and many teams don't monitor it closely. Inventory your OMADA models now, confirm patch or mitigation status by serial number, and lock management behind a VPN. If you can't patch today, rotate credentials, check for unauthorized admin accounts, and diff configurations for surprises. Finally, a reminder that developer tools are part of your attack surface, not a safe zone. Two popular AI-assisted code editors package embedded Chromium components that lag upstream security fixes, leaving dozens of known browser and JavaScript engine vulnerabilities inside the editor. Developers often browse docs, sign into services, or preview apps from within that interface, which puts session tokens and credentials at risk. Attackers can chain a web-exposed flaw with local file access for a bigger win, and teams tend to delay editor upgrades because they fear breaking extensions. Treat dev workstations like the keys to the kingdom. Set a policy that editor runtimes auto-update within a defined window, monitor for outdated versions, and move sensitive browsing to a fully patched browser until fixes land. If you've used these editors recently, rotate high-value tokens and audit plugins for anything that shouldn't be there. Social video is doing the attacker's work for them. Short how-to-fix or activate clips are walking people through steps to unlock Windows, Microsoft 365, Adobe tools, and even game mods. But the helpers they paste or download are information-stealing malware. The campaign keeps resurfacing around trending search terms, which pulls in both consumers and small businesses that search TikTok or YouTube before checking official docs. The pattern is simple. Teach the victim to compromise themselves, then drain browsers, password managers, and crypto wallets. If you're supporting a workforce that learns through short videos, assume some percentage will try these tricks. Publish sanctioned guides, block known stealer families, and watch for copy-paste command patterns that create scheduled tasks or registry run keys. When you see sudden token exfiltration to known command and control hosts, quarantine first and then educate so the lesson sticks. Attackers are also leaning on Microsoft's own cloud to sell the illusion of safety. They're hosting Office 365 lookalike pages on Azure Blob Storage, which means the pages carry legitimate Microsoft certificates and familiar subdomains. That trusted wrapper helps them slip past both human skepticism and some filters. An adversary in the middle kits collect credentials and multi-factor prompts. The current waves target finance staff and administrators, where one mailbox takeover can flip invoices or reset access downstream. If you haven't moved high-risk roles to phishing-resistant authentication yet, this is your nudge. Lock down conditional access, scrutinize OAuth grants, and hunt for new forwarding rules or strange sign-ins flagged as impossible travel. When in doubt, reset sessions and turn up auditing so you can see what the attacker tried to do. Edge VPN appliances continue to be high-value targets, and a critical issue in WatchGuard Fireware's IKEV2 service shows why. The flaw allows remote, unauthenticated code execution on Firebox devices, which plenty of small and mid-sized businesses use for site-to-site and remote access. If an appliance on the internet goes down to a memory bug or out-of-bounds write, the attacker can change policy, add accounts, and quietly pivot into internal networks. Managed service providers, retail branches, and clinics that patch slowly or run change windows on paper are especially vulnerable. Treat these boxes like Tier 0 assets. Inventory them, patch them, and confirm they only accept peers you trust. Then watch for unexpected tunnel establishments, process crashes, and config diffs outside change windows, because those are the breadcrumbs you'll get when someone is already inside. Microsoft had to yank trust from more than 200 code signing certificates after actors used them to sign fake Teams installers that dropped the Oyster backdoor and, later, Reseda ransomware. The activity, attributed to a group tracked as Vanilla Tempest, leaned on that "it's signed, it must be safe" bias that slips past both controls and people. Defender and SmartScreen now flag the binaries, but incident responders keep finding victims who installed the Trojanized packages from non-store sources. This is a reminder that the trust chain can be subverted at multiple points, and software that looks official can still be poison. Tighten application control to allow only approved publishers, hashpin critical installers, and restrict who can install collaboration tools in the first place. If any endpoints pulled these packages, re-image, rotate credentials, and sweep for persistence before bringing them back. And on the web platform side, Microsoft issued a fix for a request smuggling weakness in the Kestrel web server used by ASP.NET Core, tracked as CVE 2025-55315. An authenticated attacker could sneak hidden requests through front ends and confuse the back end about where one request ends and another begins. That opens doors to session hijacking, data exposure, or rule bypasses, especially when Kestrel sits behind custom reverse proxies that parse headers a little differently. Cloud and on-prem setups both apply here, and the tricky part is that symptoms can look like random 400s and 500s on the edge while the backend looks clean. Make this a must-patch for any internet-facing .NET app and add tests to confirm your proxy and Kestrel agree on header parsing. If you can't patch today, limit exposure and get those parsing checks into your pipeline. The Pound to Own contest in Ireland delivered a reminder of how quickly skilled teams can turn assumptions into broken software. In a single day, researchers demonstrated working exploits across browsers, virtualization platforms, and enterprise apps, earning more than $500,000 in awards. Many of the bugs were true 0 days, meaning vendors had no prior knowledge until they watched the demos land. The contest operates under responsible disclosure rules, so fixes will roll out, but that takes time and arrives unevenly. For defenders, the window between a public demonstration and a fully patched fleet is where copycats thrive. Treat this like a forecast. Track vendor advisories tied to the event, prioritize patches for browsers and hypervisors, and turn up endpoint detection rules that look for crash then execute behavior. If a tool is mission-critical and unpatched, consider isolating it or disabling risky features until updates land. Vidar, the information-stealing malware, just got a speed upgrade. The operators re-engineered it to run multi-threaded tasks, which makes credential, cookie, and wallet theft faster and more reliable. Initial access still leans on malvertising and cracked software lures, and command and control servers rotate through legitimate hosting to dodge simple blocks. Faster data theft shortens the window for users or tools to interrupt the compromise, and session cookies make passwords optional for the attacker. If your crown jewels sit behind a browser session admin consoles, finance platforms, developer portals, assume those tokens are what adversaries want. Push hardware-backed multi-factor authentication for high-risk roles, block high-risk download sites, and monitor for strange file access patterns from browser processes. When you find Vidar, quarantine quickly, rotate tokens, and invalidate active sessions before you focus on cleanup. Researchers also showed how a diagramming syntax called Mermaid can carry hidden instructions that influence Microsoft 365 Copilot, the artificial intelligence assistant attached to Office documents. When Copilot parses the content, it can be nudged to pull or expose tenant data a normal user didn't intend to share. It's an indirect prompt injection attack that lives at the document layer and doesn't require a vulnerability in the traditional sense, just a willing parser and permissive data scopes. That means normal collaboration can become a data exfiltration channel if guardrails are missing or logs are thin. Treat AI assistants like connected services with privileges, not magic helpers. Tighten the data scopes they can touch, restrict where they can reach across tenants or repositories, and scan inbound documents for embedded instruction blocks. Pilot with low-risk data, keep auditing on, and review access logs for cross-site pulls that don't match real work. A growing botnet dubbed Polar Edge is taking over home and small business routers, and it's doing it the old-fashioned way: weak passwords, outdated firmware, and exposed management ports. Once on board, the malware enrolls devices into a command and control network that can launch distributed denial-of-service attacks, proxy traffic, and harvest credentials. The victims often sit in home offices or branches where patching and monitoring are an afterthought, but those gateways still front business traffic. The risk is quiet and persistent. A compromised router blends into the background while it forwards data to places you don't expect. Make auto updates and credential hygiene mandatory for any device that touches company work, even if an employee owns it. Disable wide area network administration, baseline outbound connections from routers, and replace end-of-life gear that can't be managed. If you discover a compromised unit, assume the rest of the network needs a quick look too. And finally, a case study in why edge appliances remain a favorite target. A group tracked as Salt Typhoon, with ties to a nation-state, breached a European telecommunications provider by exploiting a Citrix NetScaler gateway. After the foothold, the operators mixed valid credentials with custom tooling, one piece called SnappyBee, to persist and move laterally. Telecom environments are uniquely attractive because they offer visibility into many downstream networks, but the techniques translate to any organization with internet-facing gateways. When a device at the edge falls, the attacker starts inside your walls with traffic that looks legitimate. That's why patch windows for these appliances need service-level agreements. Multi-factor authentication must protect admin access, and configuration changes should be tightly audited. If compromise is suspected, rebuild from a trusted image, rotate credentials, and review logs for unusual authentication or data staging from management subnets. Online stores are seeing real pressure from a flaw in Adobe Commerce and Magento that lets attackers hijack active shopper sessions. Researchers call it Session Reaper, and they're tracking it as CVE 2025-54236. It's being used to skim checkout data and ride logged-in sessions to take over accounts, which turns directly into fraud and chargebacks. The complicating factor is that many shops run third-party themes and plugins, so patching isn't always one click and done. If you own e-commerce, set a hard deadline for updates, then verify that payment pages only load scripts from domains you control. Watch for sudden changes in JavaScript on the checkout flow, spikes in declined transactions, and traffic to unfamiliar hosts during payment. If you can't patch immediately, add script integrity checks, lock down content security policies, and hunt for abnormal session creation right now. SharePoint servers are back in the crosshairs from a China-linked group reusing an exploit chain people are calling ToolShell. Even after Microsoft shipped fixes in July, compromises continue where patches lagged, or, crucially, where machine keys were never rotated. That key theft gives attackers persistence even after you install updates, which makes cleanup more than just a patch and pray exercise. Targets include public sector and telecom, but any internet-facing SharePoint farm running older builds is at risk. Treat this as an integrity incident. Patch, rotate keys, and check for web shells and odd process launches from w3w.exe. If something looks off, isolate the server, rebuild from a known good baseline, and verify service accounts and application pools weren't modified. Collaboration platforms are too central to leave in a maybe-patched state. There's also a supply chain angle hiding in plain sight. A high-severity issue in Rust's async tar libraries that lets crafted archives bypass normal path handling. If your build systems, update services, or data ingestion jobs automatically unpack nested tar files, that tiny behavior can turn into remote code execution with elevated writes. The risk spreads through transitive dependencies, so you may be using the vulnerable code without realizing it. Start with an inventory of where tar extraction happens in your pipelines. Then bump the affected libraries and sandbox the extraction step. Hunt for unexpected file writes outside intended directories, new binaries appearing after ingestion, or jobs that suddenly request extra permissions. Until you can update everything, disable automatic unpacking of untrusted archives and keep those workflows fenced in tight.
Meanwhile, multiple teams showed how common AI agents can be pushed into running system commands through argument injection and prompt tricks. Even so-called human-in-the-loop approvals can be gamed when the interface nudges people to click accept without context. That turns a chat-looking interaction into data exfiltration, shell execution, or package installs on developer machines and internal tools. If you're piloting agents, treat them like privileged applications, not toys on a laptop. Lock down tool permissions to a default deny list, pin network egress, and filter command line arguments so an agent can't slip dangerous flags past you. Then watch for any agent host invoking shells, calling package managers, or making new outbound requests right after a prompt interaction. And finally, a leak in a model context protocol tool registry exposed more than 3,000 AI servers and thousands of API keys, with researchers also finding malicious packages that quietly forwarded emails and secrets. Because this connector layer sits between chatbots, agents, and your everyday tools, stolen keys can unlock a lot of data with very little noise. The operator pushed fixes, but keys don't invalidate themselves, and many organizations adopted MCP before they had a clean inventory of what they installed. Start with an enterprise-wide key rotation, then build a registry of connectors with clear owners and allowed sources. Block unapproved registries, enforce checksums on packages, and monitor for unusual tool invocations tied to agent service accounts. If you find anything sketchy, pull those connectors, rotate credentials again, and put the agent traffic behind a proxy you control. That's the Friday Rollup for October 20th through October 24th, 2025. For more, visit baremetalcyber.com and listen daily at dailycyber.news. Thanks for listening. We're back Monday.